Hello and welcome to our channel. We are so happy to have you here with us. If you're looking to improve your English speaking skills and gain more confidence, you've come to the right place. Whether you're just starting out or already at an intermediate level, we're here to guide you with practical tips, fun lessons, and real-life examples to help you speak English like a pro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. We're so happy to have you here with us today. Whether you're listening during your morning coffee or winding down in the evening, we really appreciate you spending your time with us. I'm Agnes, and I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Hi there. I'm Jasper, and I'm just as excited as Agnes to be with you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We know how important it is to keep practicing your English, so we're here to make learning fun and easy. So, let's jump right into it.
All right, let's get started. So, you're probably wondering, what are we going to talk about today? Well, today we have something special for you, something that will help you speak more confidently and sound more fluent in English. Today's topic is all about vocabulary for speaking English fluently.
Yes, that's right. We're going to focus on the kind of vocabulary that will make you sound more natural when you speak English. A lot of people think that speaking fluently just means speaking quickly, but it's actually about using the right words and phrases in the right way. If you have the right vocabulary, you can speak clearly and with confidence, no matter the situation.
Exactly. And I think this is a really exciting topic because no matter your level, whether you're just starting to learn English or you're at an intermediate level, you can use these tips. These vocabulary tips will help you sound more like a native speaker and help you understand English in a deeper way. Fluency is not just about grammar, it's about using the right words to express yourself, and that's what we'll focus on today.
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing to remember is that using the right vocabulary doesn't mean you need to use complicated words. It's about choosing words that feel natural, words that are used every day by native speakers. It's not about memorizing big, difficult words, it's about having the right tools in your language toolbox to sound fluent in conversations.
That's a great point, Jasper. And that's why we're so excited to talk to you about this today. These words and phrases we're going to share are easy to learn, but they're going to make a huge difference in how you speak. So, we really hope you'll find these tips helpful.
Before we jump into the vocabulary, we want to take a moment to thank you, yes, you, for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate your time, and we're so glad you're here with us. Learning a new language is a big journey, and we're here to help make that journey a little bit easier and a lot more fun.
All right, now that we're all warmed up, let's dive into part 1 of our special topic. First, let's talk about one of the most important aspects of sounding fluent in English, adjectives. These are words that describe things, people, or places. For example, if you're talking about your favorite food, instead of just saying it's good, you could say it's delicious or it's mouth-watering. See how much more interesting that sounds.
Yes, exactly. Adjectives make your sentences come to life. Think about it. If I say, I have a car, that's fine, but it's very basic, right? But if I say, I have a cool car or I have a fast car, now I'm painting a picture for you. You can imagine the kind of car I have. And that's what we want to do when we speak English. We want to add color and detail to our words so that people can really understand what we're saying.
I love that. And it doesn't stop with just simple adjectives like big or small. There are so many adjectives you can use that will make your English sound richer. For example, instead of saying it's a nice day, you can say it's a beautiful day or it's a perfect day for a walk. Or maybe you want to describe a person rather than saying she's friendly, you could say she's kind or she's warm-hearted. By using different adjectives, you'll make your speech sound much more interesting and natural.
I couldn't agree more. And you don't need to use very complex adjectives either. Simple words like amazing, wonderful, or comfortable can go a long way. Just make sure you're adding some color to your language, and you'll sound so much more fluent.
Exactly. So, take a moment and think about a few adjectives you could use to describe something in your life right now. It could be a place, a person, or even the weather. The more you practice, the easier it will become to use these adjectives naturally in conversation.
And here's something else about adjectives: don't forget about adverb-adjective combinations. For example, instead of saying, she runs fast, you can say, she runs incredibly fast, or she runs so fast. These combinations make your speech more colorful and emphasize your point more effectively. You can also use adjectives with verbs to express your emotions. Instead of just saying, I like it, you could say, I absolutely love it, or I really enjoy it. These small additions make your speech more powerful and fluent.
Great tips, Jasper. So, everyone listening, we want you to remember, adjectives are a huge part of sounding fluent. By adding just a few of them into your daily speech, you'll notice how much more natural your English sounds. And if you're ever stuck or unsure, start with simple adjectives. You can always build up from there.
That's right. So, we've covered adjectives, and now let's move on to another important tool in your vocabulary toolbox: verbs.
Thank you, Jasper, for that great advice on adjectives and how they can really bring your English to life. So, now that we've talked about adjectives, let's continue on and dive into the next big topic for speaking English fluently: verbs. Verbs are, of course, the action words in any language, and in English, they're absolutely crucial. Without them, we wouldn't be able to express what we're doing, what's happening, or what's important. But here's the thing, it's not just about knowing verbs, it's about choosing the right ones. This is how you can make your speech sound much more natural and fluent.
Absolutely. You're spot on, Agnes. So many people focus on nouns, thinking that they are the most important part of a sentence, but in reality, verbs can really make your speech flow. They are the heart of any sentence. Let me give you an example. If you say, I went to the store, that's fine, it gets the point across. But if you say, I drove to the store, or I rushed to the store, you're already giving more detail about how you went there. That small change makes a big difference in how your English sounds.
Yes, that's exactly what we mean when we say, choose the right verbs. They can add so much depth to your sentence. Instead of just saying I ate lunch, you could say, I devoured lunch, or I enjoyed a delicious lunch. You're giving your listener a much clearer picture of what you're doing and how it feels.
Right. And it's not just about picking stronger verbs like devoured or enjoyed. There are so many other ways to use verbs that can make your English sound more fluent. One example is using phrasal verbs. These are combinations of verbs and prepositions or adverbs that are super common in everyday English. For instance, instead of saying, I arrived at the party, you could say, I showed up at the party, or instead of saying, I looked for my keys, you could say, I searched for my keys. These small changes make your language sound more natural.
That's such a good point, Jasper. Phrasal verbs are like the secret ingredient for sounding more fluent. They're used by native speakers all the time, but they're often harder to find in textbooks. Phrasal verbs like give up, take off, or pick up, they add a natural rhythm and feeling to English that makes conversations feel more relaxed. And the best part, once you start using them, they'll make your English sound more authentic, almost like you've been speaking the language for years.
Exactly. And the great thing about phrasal verbs is that they're often easy to learn because they are used in so many different situations. So, once you know a few of them, you can start using them right away. For example, if you want to talk about finishing something, you could say, I wrapped up the meeting, instead of saying, I finished the meeting. It's more natural, right? And it sounds more fluent.
It definitely does. And don't be afraid to experiment with different verbs and phrasal verbs. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. So, instead of saying I sat down, you might say I plopped down on the couch, or instead of I'm thinking about it, you could say I'm considering it. These changes don't make the sentence harder to understand. In fact, they can make it easier to picture exactly what's happening. It's all about making your words work for you in a way that sounds natural and interesting.
That's right, Agnes. And, of course, verbs aren't just about what action is happening, they can also tell us about the tense of that action. This is another key area to think about when speaking fluently. It's not just about the verb itself, but also about when and how the action is happening. For example, the difference between I eat lunch and I was eating lunch is huge. The first one is simple present, just a fact. But the second one, with the past continuous, gives us more detail. It's happening over time, it's in the past, and there's a certain flow to it.
Exactly. Tense can completely change the meaning of a sentence, and it can give your speech a more natural feel, especially when you're telling a story or describing something that happened. For example, if you say, I was reading a book, it tells the listener that you were in the middle of the action. But if you say, I read the book, it's just a simple statement of fact. Using the right verb tense helps make your story come to life and sound more fluent.
And this is one area where a lot of learners can improve their fluency. You don't need to memorize every tense right away, but just practicing a few key tenses, like the present continuous or past perfect, can help you speak with more variety and precision. It'll sound more interesting when you use different tenses to describe different situations. For example, I have been working all day sounds different than I worked all day, right? It's a small change, but it makes your speech richer and more detailed.
Definitely. And when you're speaking, it's important to be aware of these verb tenses, even if you don't always remember every single one perfectly. The key is to practice and try to use the tenses that you're comfortable with. Over time, you'll get better at using them naturally without even thinking about it. The more you hear English and the more you speak, the more this will come easily to you.
That's the magic of practicing with verbs and tenses. And the best part is that you don't need to rush. Start with simple verbs and tenses, and as you get more comfortable, add in more variety. With time, you'll notice how much more fluent your English becomes.
Thanks, Jasper. You've shared some amazing tips on verbs and how they're essential to making our speech sound fluent and natural. So, now that we've covered adjectives and verbs, it's time to talk about something just as important: linking words and transition phrases, those helpful little words and phrases that connect your ideas and make your speech flow smoothly. Now, you might be wondering, why are these words so important? Well, when you're speaking English, it's not just about using the right vocabulary, it's also about how you organize and connect your ideas. If you don't use these linking words, your speech might sound choppy or disconnected. But when you use them correctly, your English sounds clear, organized, and much more natural.
I absolutely agree, Agnes. Linking words can really make the difference between sounding like a beginner and sounding like a more advanced speaker. Let's say you're telling a story or giving an explanation. Without linking words, you might say something like, I went to the store. I bought milk. I went home. It's clear, but it doesn't have the smooth flow that you'd hear in a natural conversation. But if you add some linking words, it sounds like this. First, I went to the store. Then, I bought some milk. After that, I went home. See how much smoother that sounds? These small words like first, then, after that, and finally really help to organize the ideas in your speech.
Exactly. These linking words not only help your listener understand the order of events or ideas, but they also make your speech sound more fluid. They act like bridges, connecting your thoughts together so everything feels like one complete idea. And the best part? You can use linking words in so many situations. For example, if you're giving your opinion, you can use words like "in my opinion," "personally," or "I believe" to show that you're sharing your own view. And when you want to give more details or examples, you can use phrases like "for example," such as, or "in particular."
That's a great point, Agnes. And don't forget about words that help you contrast ideas. Words like "however," on the other hand, or "but" can help you show the differences between two ideas. For instance, I love traveling, however, I don't enjoy long flights. By using these linking words, you're guiding your listener through your thoughts, making sure they follow along with what you're saying. It's also great for expressing your ideas clearly and showing relationships between different pieces of information.
Absolutely. And if you're giving reasons or explaining why something is true, you can use phrases like "because," "since," "as," or "due to." For example, I like traveling because it gives me the chance to learn about new cultures, or I didn't go to the party because I was feeling sick. These linking words show the cause and effect, making your argument or explanation stronger. It's such an easy way to make your speech sound more organized and confident.
And here's something really important: don't just use these words in writing. They are just as useful in speaking. So, if you're telling a story or giving an opinion during a conversation, adding these little linking words will make you sound more fluent and organized. When you practice using them, you'll notice that your conversations feel more connected and natural.
Exactly. And let's not forget about time expressions. These are great linking words that help you show the order of things or when something happens. Words like "before," "after," "when," "while," and "during" are perfect for talking about different moments in time. For example, "I always drink coffee before work," or "I met my friend while I was shopping." By using these words, you're able to describe your day, your plans, or your experiences with much more clarity and detail.
Exactly. And let's not forget about time expressions. These are great linking words that help you show the order of things, or when something happens. Words like "before," "after," "when," "while," and "during" are perfect for talking about different moments in time. For example, "I always drink coffee before work," or "I met my friend while I was shopping." By using these words, you're able to describe your day, your plans, or your experiences with much more clarity and detail.
Right? The more you practice using these linking words, the easier it will become to use them in real conversations. You'll start noticing that they'll come to you naturally. And remember, you don't need to use every linking word in every sentence. It's about using the right ones for this situation. Sometimes, a few words are enough to create that smooth, flowing connection between your ideas.
Exactly, Agnes. And here's a little tip: if you ever feel unsure about which linking word to use, just think about what kind of relationship you're trying to show. Are you adding something? Are you contrasting ideas? Are you giving an example? Once you know the relationship, it's easier to pick the right word.
Such a great tip, Jasper. And before we move on, let's quickly recap the main types of linking words that we've talked about. Sequencing words like "first," "then," "next," "finally" to show the order of events. Contrast words like "however," "on the other hand," and "but" to show differences. Cause and effect words like "because," "since," and "due to" explain why something happens. Time expressions like "before," "after," and "while" to talk about when things happen. And opinion words like "in my opinion," "personally," or "I believe" to share your thoughts clearly.